The next two language features we'll consider together. The var keyword simply tells the C# compiler to work out what type you're using by looking on the right-hand side of a variable declaration. And this means you don't need to write cumbersome code like this, where you're unnecessarily repeating yourself. Instead, the var keyword allows you to simply write this. And as well as saving us from some extra typing, the var keyword also allows us to use anonymous types. So for example, I can create an anonymous object which has an author and a title property using the syntax you can see here. And this saves me from going to the trouble of declaring a book class with an author and a title property, because under the hood the C# compiler is able to define a suitable class to make use of. And so if I then create another object with the same properties, the C# compiler is clever enough to use the same anonymous class, so both objects have the same type. And this means I can put them into an array, which the C# compiler will infer to be an array of my anonymous type. However, if I create another anonymous object which also has author and title properties, but I add an additional property, say the number of pages, then this results in a completely different type being created. So I can't add this object to my array. And there's another nice compiler feature where the names of your anonymous type members can sometimes be inferred automatically, which makes for a really nice compact syntax. So instead of having to say author equals author and title equals title, we can just let the C# compiler give us properties with the same names as the variables they're being set to. Of course, in this example, it does mean that we have lowercase property names now, which is slightly unconventional in C#. Now, how are anonymous objects relevant to LINQ? Well, anonymous types are really useful for passing on information from one stage to the next inside a LINQ pipeline. And because they're often used very temporarily to pass data from one line to the next, their very compact syntax is really beneficial. And we'll be seeing lots of examples of this in action and how it helps us later on in this course. By the way, in my opinion, anonymous types are a much better choice than using tuples, which could be used for the same purpose, but they don't give nice names to each of their members. Tuples members are just called item 1 and item 2 and so on. And also, I personally think the C# syntax for working with tuples is a lot more cumbersome than it needs to be. And I'm hoping that that's something maybe Microsoft will improve in a future version of C#. So in this course, I'll be more or less ignoring tuples and using anonymous objects everywhere instead.